why ISA?
As a solo agent, long-term, you need to invest in lead gen. It's quite surprising how many people still work off of a spreadsheet. In today's world, we need to look at relationship build. We need to look at automation. Now the consumer has changed. What are we doing differently in order to get in front of them and provide value? A lot of agents automated themselves out of their business, but there has to still be a human component. We're born to sell.
You've got a team of 6 ISAs servicing 77 agents. That's massive. Having a team that just blows that out of the water. So you guys are killing it with that metric.
We have a 52% conversion. That's fabulous.
All right, folks, we are back, and I've got a great one here for you today. We've got Alysha McLean from lovely Ontario in Canada. For people that might not remember, we work in Canada as well. Canada is, a huge market. We work in Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, the biggest markets in Canada. So she's coming to us, from a big team over in Canada and talking about her story, right? How she's kind of built an ISA team over there and the kind of impact they've had. So Alysha, welcome so much. Really appreciate you making the time. I know you guys run a pretty tight ship, so love that you're here, kind of telling your story. But let's give people a little bit of background, though. I always want to give context to these conversations. Sometimes we're talking to brand new agents, first year in the business, making an impact, and sometimes we're talking to larger organizations, right? So let's give people a little bit of background on yourself and your role on this team. Go for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me first and foremost. And also thank you for the impact that you guys have already had on our business. So I'll just start out with that. So I'm Alysha McLean. I'm a second generation realtor. So I've seen it all for many, many, many years. And on top of that, I am a licensed agent. I've ran a team. I've owned a team. I've kind of sat at every different seat in it, as far as from a solo agent all the way up. I'm also a high performance mindset coach. So I coach agents on really understanding the whole process, starting from the lead, coming into our database all the way through to execution, and then follow up long-term for residual income after that. And one of the biggest changes was about almost 2 years ago. I came in at the brokerage level and said, you know what, we got to mix this up a little bit. We've got some cool opportunity. How can we work at a brokerage level and provide a team type environment? So what we've done is created a hybrid type of model, and it's something that is really kind of forward thinking, but also something that has been able to serve all of our agents, from that solo just licensed to somebody who is optimizing their lead gen as a whole and as a pillar. So I love kind of what we're building and where we're going, and that's kind of how we've all come to be as we add in each piece of the puzzle. So I'm excited on what we've built and where we're going to it.
I love it. I love it. And I always think these, kind of brokerage team models can be really powerful. Done the right way with the right, structure, right incentives, right people in there. It's a great value add, right? As a brokerage to function as a team. I think the real estate team, one of the most powerful, business models, in the whole industry. I think, that's why it's dominated so much these last, 10, 15 years, because they can be very successful, right? If they're done the right way, big caveat there, done the right way, right? 100% with the right people. It can be very successful. It can be very successful, right? And execution is everything. So Alysha, you're coming into this brokerage. I think it's Century 21 over there where you are. You're helping them out. Tell us a little bit about that role, and then why ISA. How did that come into play? What problems did you identify where an ISA team or an ISA was the solution?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that I noticed was, as a solo agent, they kind of don't know really where they're going to be going to, or I have a friend list and I have enough, and they don't realize at that particular moment that long-term you need to invest in lead gen. At the end of the day, you need to invest in this. And then when we start to look at the technology that's also available to us, it's quite surprising how many people still work off of a spreadsheet, and it is what it is. But in today's world, we need to look at relationship build. We need to look at automations. We need to look at a whole process. It's not just like it once was, where you put the sign on the lawn and the phone rings on a consistent. Now the consumer has changed, and post-COVID, we need to be really creative on how we connect with them. And the biggest thing is, the leads have all the access now. They have so much information. So, what are we
They do.
doing differently in order to get in front of them and provide value? And I think it's the relationship builds that is really the missing piece. We're born to sell. I don't know about you, but I'm a salesperson. So, our natural vision is to go and start selling them. Well, I can't sell them if I haven't built a relationship now, because I can just go online and get the sold information. I can go online and I can look at the pictures now. So, what am I going to do different that provides more value? And this is where we came into the brokerage level and said, our brokerage offers all of this already, but are we doing a good enough job at articulating what the brokerage actually has available? And so that was the first thing to say, hey, we have a lead gen program. Hey, we have leads for you. Hey, we have technology. And so we started to recreate all of this about just almost 2 years ago, year and a half or so. And what we started to realize is by breaking it down, we're able to optimize all the pieces that most agents don't love to do. Let's just call the spade a spade. Make
100%. 100%.
right? Making lots of calls to hang-ups or the funny voicemail, or no, it's hard. It's a hard job. And so what do we all want as agents? We want the deal, and we want the deal this weekend. But we realize there's a big process that happens before that moment. And there's a lot of incubation. And when we really look at metrics, 18 to 24 months is the lead incubation period right now. And so if we know this, then let's use it to our advantage. And that's when we started to invest in great technology, great tech stacks that integrate with one another. But there has to still be a human component. What I observed over most of COVID is a lot of agents automated themselves out of their business. And some of that was great, but now they don't want to call and they don't have a conversation. They still want the deal at the end. And I get it. So part of what we wanted to do was provide all of the moving pieces, because there's something for everyone. And if you love calling, great. Here's a pond with leads to call. If you don't love calling, I have a whole ISA team who loves to call. I also have a digital ISA team who will call and say anything that they like because they're not nervous on what is the lead going to think of me. So creating this whole kind of hybrid team model was so imperative. And that's where having a human ISA is equally as important, because as we move to more digital and as we've seen with AI come in, I even am of guilt. Are you real? Are you a bot? Oh no, I am not a bot. Okay. Are you a human being? And sometimes at that point of the transaction, we do want a human to come in who can help and nurture the relationship until they're more ready. And that's when I thought, we've got something special here. We've got the right structure. We added your team in there, and oh my God, it's been fabulous.
Yeah, and you make there's a lot in there. Let me unpack some of those ideas. I think you dropped a lot of really good points in there, Alysha, because yes, I think the role of the agent, there's all of this technology there, and the technology can be, it can save us a lot of time. It can make agents so much more efficient in so many ways. But there's a balance there to strike, right? There's a balance there we have to strike, because the consumer, like you said, much savvier than 5 or 10 years ago. You've been in the business a long time. I've been in the business for, more than 15 years. And that one of the biggest things that I've seen, especially in this online internet lead space, is the consumer is completely different than it was, 10, 15 years ago. It was a lot easier to get them on the phone. It was a lot easier to get them, to meet face to face. Now, they get bombarded, with once they go online, they fill out a few forms, they sign up on a couple websites, and, they see all this stuff coming in, and they assume it's automation. Right? They kind of know it. There's not a real person, behind it. I think that having someone like a real human pick up the phone and talk to them is almost seen like a premium. Like that's, you're kind of, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I think you're setting yourself apart when someone from your team and your organization takes the trouble to actually have a conversation with them, and is interested in what they want to do and show some genuine curiosity about what they're going to do. I think there's something to that, right? That's kind of what I observed. And also, like you said, really good point too. The agents, the favorite part of their job is not picking up the phone and trying to chase these leads, right? That's not the favorite part of the job. And and I have empathy with that. I understand it. We ask the agents to wear many hats. They got to be, the telemarketer, and they've got to be the transaction manager, and they got to be the negotiator and the customer service, the concierge. They have to wear a lot of hats, and that's part of the role. I think that as a team or a brokerage that can help them right? Take some of that load off. I think it's tremendous value, right? Can be a tremendous value because that is not the part that the agents, love doing. Agents, in my experience, agents are great dealing with people. Like
Yeah.
they're usually getting the business because they're people, right? They get them in front of someone and they can have a conversation and they can get some really good value out of that. It's the process to that conversation that really can trip people up. So it sounds like you guys recognize that. And instead of complaining about it, which is what a lot of leadership does, let's be honest, right? A lot of leadership, like, oh, my agents, oh my God, you decided to kind of like lean in and go, okay, we have a solution to that, right? We have this tool set. We've got an ISA team, real human ISA team that's going to help you make some of these calls. And what does that look like for you guys? Lead comes in, or the ISAs are hunting in the pond. How do they fit into your process? And does it end once they hand off over to the agent, or do they continue to be involved there?
Yeah, this is great. Okay, lean in. This is some good stuff. So, first, let me just call out we have 6 human ISAs, 3 digital. So, I think that that's really important too. And one of the first things that I noticed was when we first started, I was like, why are we all running the same? So, what I actually do is as the lead comes in, my digital ISA is what scrapes them first. So, I'm using our digital ISA as my ISA's ISA. Does that make sense? So the
100%.
reason for this is because the digital one can just make tons of like calls fast in the background. Whereas for us, and we do things a little differently, I'll be honest, it's not just a quick call list. We like to make sure that we're also satisfying the lead as we go. So it's a lead visual. So as the human ISA team is then vetting, they'll vet from a variety, from a brand new lead that's come in to older ponds that we've already kind of segmented out so that we can say, oh, in this one, this was a longer term nurture. So who on our ISA team is just really good at making relationships? Sound familiar? Oh, hey, buddy, how's it going? Long time no chat. So we can assign different human ISAs to different ponds based on different lead activity, lead preference. And then we can match that with the right ISA. So we've got a couple that are just, super bubbly and all the rest. And that's really great on that first lead. But somebody who's maybe been there for a little while, it's somebody turning down the energy just a little bit. And it's more of this way. So we're able to optimize our technology and amplify the humanness of it so that we're always scraping off and always working the leads when it's appropriate time, which I think is also important.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love that. So, and let's clarify for folks. When you mean digital ISA, you mean that, like, is it like an AI agent that makes calls and does that initial contact? It's called that scenario. When a lead first comes in, it's kind of doing that's one of the hardest, activities to do. It takes a lot of repetition. It takes a lot of tenacity to make. So you've got that part of the process. You've brought in the AI agents, and they're making calls and getting that initial information from leads when they first come in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We run that. And then we
Very
do run
nice.
alongside a human so that there is a
Mm.
human touch as
Oh,
well.
both. You guys hit it with
Oh, yeah.
everything. Just come guns blazing. Oh, I see.
Yeah, because let's be honest, I want the lead to transact with us, and I don't care which phone number they come in on.
Doesn't matter.
Right. And so it's always interesting too when you can see what they're saying to digital, what they're saying to humans. So on our initial coming in, we absolutely run a secondary. And that one's just a little more, I call it customer service because nobody
Okay.
wants to be sold to out of the gate. It's a customer
So
service call. And that makes it very palatable for the agents, the ISAs, and the lead because they feel good. They don't feel like they're being sold to because they happen to put in their email and phone number.
I got you. 100%. And I think, that I think that one of the big differences that I've seen, over the years is that back in 2010, we could get away with kind of just going right for the kill with a lead. Like a brand, first of all, Google leads were like $1 a lead, number one.
Yeah.
So you kind of didn't care if you messed it up. Oh, I'll just talk to the next one, right? So our approach was very, shoot to kill right off the bat. It doesn't matter. You're looking for the low-hanging fruit and kind of who cared about anybody else. 2025, that game is completely different, right? Right now the teams that are having success with these inbound internet leads are doing what you're saying. It's a customer service first approach because the other approach doesn't work anymore. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna burn through so many of these leads, and yes, you might get a few low hanging fruit here and there, but the long term ROI, the long term return is going to be on your ability to nurture them and keep them engaged, because the easiest thing to do in this age of all this technology is just hang up the phone and block your number. Like that's the easiest thing to do ever, right? And they're getting all these different calls, and some of these agents, even though it's 2025, have the same approach. They just want to book close for the appointment. Hey, what do you want to go look at properties? Are you pre-approved? Are you ready to go? In a way, I always tell people, I describe it this way: you're disqualifying people instead of qualifying people. You're finding reasons for them not to talk to you. Are you pre-approved? How many bedrooms and bathrooms do you want? Right? And if they can't answer those questions, you're kind of signaling to them they're not ready to work with you, right?
Yeah.
That they're not useful to you in that moment. Instead of what you described, the customer service approach. How can I help you where you are right now? Right? Like, are you pre-approved? Might not be a conversation starter, right? It might be like, where are you at? How can I help? Wherever you are right now. I think it's that challenge of can't instead of, I would say it this way: 15 years ago, it was about closing for the appointment as fast as you can, right? Let's just go. Let's see. I'm on to the next one. In 2025, how quickly can we add value? How quickly can we be useful to them, right? Because then, Alysha, they might actually pick up your next call.
Yeah.
They'll respond to your next text message because, like, hey, Alysha and her team, yeah, they're genuinely interested in what I have to accomplish. They're not just trying to sell me off the bat, right? And they've got something interesting to say and to share with me, right? Like that is time to appointment. How about time to value? How quickly can you add value, and can you be helpful in their search? And the consumer is savvy. The consumer has options. They know this. They know this 100%, right? And we're not the only game in town in any market, right? So that's going to set you apart. That kind of approach. So I love. So you're preaching to the choir here. With me, I think that is exactly the approach you have to have. Not because some pie in the sky fuzzy reason. No. This is the most effective way to get people to engage with you. In 2025, getting people's attention is the challenge, right? Like getting them to genuinely engage with you, because otherwise, and this is the most common complaint I hear from agents working internet leads, they ghosted me. I thought I had a great conversation and won't pick up my calls anymore, won't respond to my text messages anymore. It's like they fell off the face of the earth. That is a polite way to say they didn't find a lot of value speaking to you. They didn't enjoy that interaction, or maybe more subtle than that. You sounded like every other agent they spoke to. They can't even tell the difference, like why they should talk to agent A over agent B. Does that resonate?
Oh, this resonates huge. And I see it, and I've seen it for years. And it 100% is exactly that. And every agent just thinks like, but I'm the great. If I just met with them, I know they're going to work with me. I'm like, that doesn't work anymore. And this is where, and what I love about some of these running parallels is I observe human behavior. I've studied human behavior for over 25 years. So human behavior fascinates me. And what I love even more about now is we'll have a digital ISA and then we'll have one of your ISAs calling. So we're seeing in real time two different conversations. And what's great is as yours creates more rapport and not feeling so salesy, it's so interesting on one of them where it's like, wrong phone number. I have an agent. And you're like, it's all the same phone number. So when we have visibility on the back end of how the leads are also overwhelmed and inundated with sales and everything coming at them, how do we sound different? What are we doing that creates that rapport? And that's where that beautiful handoff to your ISA team to be able to nurture that on a slightly different level where not everybody's ready to transact, and then to layer in making them feel good that they don't have to transact and not to be scared away. So I think how we approach it all and just on a humanity level, it's like, I know you're not ready today. And then that's when we're able to actually strengthen that rapport. And I'm fine if they then get rid of my AI that's calling them and tell me that they've got an agent, because I can see that our human provided more empathy, more feeling. It felt more real,
Yeah.
because it is. They really do
100%.
actually care. That's the difference too. They do care.
And they can tell. And again, we're recording this, a tail end of 2025. Maybe in a year or two, you can't even tell the difference. At some point. Right now, I think people can tell. When they're kind of being, usually like in 90% of cases, they can figure it out. And when we've measured this closely, actually, we've run experiments, with AI ISAs and like a real human ISA, and what we found is that I think the AI is pretty good. I'd say it's at the level of what I would call like an average, like, middle of the road kind of ISA. Get those kind of numbers. The difference with the AI is that it can do that for 18 hours a day, since 365, right? And a mediocre person outworking everybody else is going to get you pretty decent results. I think that. But when we measure it side by side, same schedule, samely, the human ISA always outperformed the AI, and I think it's those intangible parts of it, right? And forget about the fact you can get a really good ISA, then it kind of blows it out of the water, right? But just apples to apples, the human will always outperform it. The thing is, the AI can outwork everybody. Is the kind of the difference too, right? Because these leads can come in any time of day, any day of the week, whether it's a holiday or a working day or weekend, night or morning. I think that's going to be the difference for now. The current difference, because people do prefer, when they vote with their feet. You can ask them, and people can say different things. When they vote with their feet and the conversion rate, people kind of prefer that person. So far right now, who knows what the future will bring. But Alysha, let's bring it back to the team, right? You've got this customer centric approach, this coming from contribution, the service based approach. How do you get a whole team on that same page? You have 6 different ISAs. What was your process to get them all up to speed on that approach? Because they might not be familiar with that. They might have come from another experience where it wasn't customer centric, it was sales centric. Like, how do we get the appointment? How do we get the sale? What was your approach to bring them up to speed and get them to where you wanted to be? Oh no, I might be having some internet issues. Let's see. Hello, hello. Kind of lost you there, Alysha. Hello, hello. Oh no. Let's try and get her back. There we go. Oh, there you are.
I'm so sorry. We're in the middle of we're in the middle of a thunderstorm.
Oh
Surprise.
no. Okay. Yikes. All right.
So
Well,
sorry about that. Sorry.
no worries, no worries. So what we'll do, we'll edit this out. What we'll do is I'll make sure I'll just ask the last question again, and we'll kind of take it from there. And I think,
Perfect.
and we'll stitch it together at the back end. So I'll take it from the top.
Awesome.
So, Alysha, I'm really loving this, customer centric approach, customer service oriented approach, right? I think that's the right way to go about, internet leads now. You have a large team though. I don't even know how many agents you have. You have 6 people on this ISA team. What was your process to get them all on board with that approach, right? And make sure everyone's on the same page, and you're seeing this you're seeing these outcomes, customer centric outcomes. Was it was it training everyone? Was it like role play? Was it what? How do you make sure that the team is on board with this approach? Because they might love this approach. They might come from a very different approach. They're coming from a sales centric approach, from an appointment setting approach, right? How do you make sure your team is on the same page to make sure that your inbound leads get that kind of consistent experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would love to tell you it was very easy, but it's not, because as an agent, they see different things. From a brokerage level, it's very independent. Here's the brokerage you're often doing on your own, so to speak. Here's some training and whatever. From a team's perspective, you're very much under that team leader's vision. You need to show up here. If you don't do the things, you're off the team. So we knew that there needed to be something in the middle. And so this is where we came and wanted a hybrid approach. We also know that not everybody's going to get as passionate about lead gen as you and I would. So fair enough. We're a little anomalies. But I also knew that by articulating where the lead starts, that's where the money starts. And I'm a money kind of gal. So I like to see, where does the money start and how do we get it to over the finish line? And we also knew that not every agent's going to want to do all the stuff. And so because not every agent wants to do all this stuff, we wanted to provide kind of a la carte kind of services. Like, We'll make the calls
Mm,
for you. We'll serve this up. We've got technology. And by doing that, it created a buy-in where they knew that they could get leads, they could get training, they could get vetted leads. And we wanted to bridge that because most agents have a lead gen problem. And so they don't know where to source them. And then once they get them, they don't know how to process them. So we said, what if we did all that for you? And literally was able to serve up the lead back to the agent that's already been processed. And so by doing that, we kind of figured out the back end. And now we've got 77 agents inside our program, inside our follow-up boss. So it's really important to have a strong CRM that shows the transparency and how we work together as a team, as one big unit, because the agents are going to get out in the field, and then what's going to happen? I forgot to call back this person. So having a transparent system where they can see the value of having the team help them. So now our ISA team can follow back up. You've got a great appointment with this lead today. And so now we've got transparency, and now that motivates the agent, because having a little bit of a behind the scenes look is mind blowing. They're like, what? I didn't know you could see all this stuff, because you don't see it behind the scenes until you're at this level of lead gen. So it's been really kind of interesting on the value add and how they get excited by technology. And then the best part is they didn't have to figure it out. They just got to come in and enjoy it, because that's always the piece. It's like they want all of the bells and whistles, not realizing it's not plug and play. Even if you got all these and you had all this stuff done, you still need to work it, set it up, modify it. So
I
it's a
got
plug
you.
and play that way.
I love that, right? And you've got that, I guess both an opportunity and a challenge of having that hybrid model, right? You're kind of figuring this out and building it the way you want to design it. And I love that, because you're doing the heavy lifting, right? For a lot of
Yeah.
this lead gen, because a lot of agents would prefer to just have a conversation with someone that's kind of raised their hand. I mean, that's the ideal situation, right? So that's like the best thing ever. Like someone that, hey, Sally agent, I've got, Bob, I spoke to him just now, he's looking for a condo, in downtown, he's looking for this, been looking for a couple months, and he's looking for something with this. I give him a call, and you have a prompt already. Like that's what you're gonna, talk to them, versus inbound internet lead comes in, and 80% of the time they're not even going to pick up, and you got to go through all these different calling attempts to even get them on the phone, and then maybe start a conversation if you get them at the right time, right? So yeah, completely different approach, and I can see how they can definitely buy into that. So you've got a team of 6 ISAs servicing 77 agents in this program. That's massive. That would
Yeah.
count as like a massive team, right? Like just that amount of agents coming in. And you guys have been doing this for a few months already. Alysha, what have been the results so far? What have the agents said? What are the outcomes you guys have been looking at? Tell me about on the results side of the equation.
Awesome. Yeah. So first and foremost, thank you for the results. It's great, because you know what? It's not just the results from the agents, it's also the results on the leads and how the lead feels. So one of the things that we do is we use follow-up boss. So we work smart lists, and we really nurture that. So as a result, we've been able to call through most of our database, be able to bubble up those that are wanting to speak to us, and then wanting to speak to our agents. Right now, when I look at high level of the phone calls and conversations we have a 52% conversion. That's fabulous.
That is
So
really
of the
good.
conversations, we're able to set appointments for 52% of those calls. And I really have to say that that's because we've also been nurturing our database for the last 6 years, but really amplified that since I think we started with you guys in May. If I'm not mistaken, we started in May. And leading up to that, we had some process, but we needed to just kind of whip it all in shape, so to speak, to be like, here we go. And what I loved the most was that your ISA team comes with different personalities. So we could then match the right personalities with the right type of leads, like I was saying earlier. And so because of that, I find that the agents are having really nice relationship with our ISAs. They get excited when an ISA calls them. They're like, I can't wait to talk to this agent or this ISA, because they know the quality of the lead is also aligned more with the agent's expectation. It's not just a random name and phone number who was recently on our website. It was a, hey, Sally, the agent, I've got Bob, the lead for you. Let me tell you a little bit about it. I think this is going to be perfect. So they also make a nice relationship, the agent and the ISA. And I think that right there, now they're both invested in the conversion on the lead. And that's really what we want, especially as the market has been changing and slower on all sides of the border. We're all feeling it. So now it's like, hey, if you're not ready now, how can we at least get the lead into an agent hand so that the ISA also feels that they can trust the agent to take it over the finish line? I think that's really special
100%.
to have.
Yeah. And that ISA to agent handoff, I want to make a point of that, is treacherous.
Yes.
That can go sideways, very quickly, right?
Yes.
If there's low trust, the thing that starts to happen is what you never want to see, which is, oh, I forgot to call. We'll call tomorrow, right? Because the agent doesn't feel it's going to be quality. Like, it's maybe one step above, getting a blank list of, a phone number and a name, getting it from the ISA. You don't want that, right? You want them to have that trust. You want them to have that good feeling, because it's going to translate into contact rate and the calls and appointments and transactions. Like if there's that high level of trust, because that handoff, yeah, it's such an important part of this whole project. So I love that. And 52% set rate on contacted leads is phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
For inbound leads, and that's a high degree of skill there,
Yeah.
a lot of hard work, because that doesn't just happen, right?
No.
I think a typical rate would probably be in the 10 to 20% on
Yeah.
off of inbound internet leads. I think it'll probably be a typical, I'd call that average,
Yeah.
rate, of solo agent trying to get these leads on the phone. There's drawbacks to that. It takes them longer to contact them. Most leads go uncontacted.
Yeah.
And there's this statistic, Alysha. This is from the U.S. And I don't know if Canada will be different. From the U.S. October last year, a study came out over the summer. They did a secret shopper exercise, and I love this data. A really good analyst, went out and did this over the whole U.S., about 15 different markets, registered, clicked on ads, went into the people's CRMs. 47% of leads never got a call. 47. Forget they didn't respond within 5 minutes, or they didn't have a great scripting. 47% never got a call, and he said a lot of it was over reliance on the texting bots, right? Oh,
Yes.
if they want an appointment, then I'll just text them. Like, what are you trying to pick up the phone, having a conversation with someone? And this is crazy, because this is 2024. This is now, right? That's a real issue. So having a team that just blows that out of the water, not only calls people, but forget 47% uncontacted. 52% are going to want to talk to you, book an
Yeah.
appointment, and engage. Right, so you guys are killing it, with that metric. But it doesn't surprise me, because you've got the right approach.
Mhm.
I know you've built a really, really strong team, so that's awesome. So not too surprising for me. But that number is very impressive. You guys should be really, really proud of that, right? 100%. And what's the feedback been from the agents, right? Your team, because at the end you've got to do a role. You're of course serving the buyers and sellers. You're serving the clients, but your client is also the team. You've got 77, clients out there that want to be part of this program. They want to receive value. What have they said about the program so far?
Yeah, so far they really like it. And it's because we've taken all the heavy lifting off of their plates. One of the other things that being part of Follow Up Boss with Follow Up Boss phone numbers and whatnot, we can also hear back the recording. So I think that that's a really nice component too, that not only that the ISA has had a really good conversation, but that the agent can then listen to that conversation and they're like, oh my gosh, I love it feels so natural that they now feel like a real team. Before, I think there was always disconnect. There's, behind the scenes, the ISA, the operations, and then the outside. And I think that by bringing in transparent technology, by bringing in and bridging the gaps between the two. And one of the things that is really great too is that because the ISA has already created a relationship, that handoff to the agent is so seamless that when the agent can't connect, that lead is ghosting. They also feel comfortable enough to go like, hey, ISA, can you try to get them back on the phone, because they picked up for you, but not for me. So they're working together as a
Got
team.
it.
And I
Got
think
it.
that's some of the biggest points of difference right now. Everybody for the longest time was all about me, just me. I can do it all myself. I don't need, or I can do it better. And I think now what we're starting to see is the real handoff, that it is a team, technology plus support plus ISA, warm them back up. See if we could say, hey, even a text, hey, my agent Sally's waiting for you. You there? Sorry, I forgot. So the ISA and the agent relationship is strengthened. The ISA and the lead relationship is strengthened. And I don't think we saw that years ago. I think before, even as an ISA, it was just routine. Let's just set the appointment, but not to follow up and see whatever happened, because it's when you're building a relationship, it's not one phone call. It's many phone calls. It's how is the kids? Did they get to university? I just remember that you said that that's why you couldn't speak on the phone. And when we have technology that serves us back, hey, remember their kid's name is Fluffy, or their dog's name is Fluffy, and the kids went to uni. It allows us to utilize the information that the lead has already shared, but then for our human ISAs to really strengthen that and not be so salesy, they become more consultant like.
I love that. I love 100%. And you mentioned something really important. If the agent's not able to get in touch with the lead, they have the confidence and say, hey, help me out, right? Help me out. Let's get this person back on the phone. Let's recontact them, because that feedback loop is so important. Sometimes people can overlook that. The ISA wants to know if they succeed or failed, right? If what they're doing is working, and if it doesn't work, they want to know, right? And when that lead, gets to meet with the agent, is going through the process, they want to know that too, because again, and people, always have different motivations. Everyone's different, but I find that people want to have, pride in their work, right? They want to feel like they're accomplishing something. They want to feel like they're part of something a little bit bigger. And you don't know how many times I see this, that people can overlook that aspect of it. And feedback is where it starts. If things go great, let your team know. If things do not go great, get their help to make it better, right? So I think that's such a huge part of that. I love that you guys do that, or have that confidence, that kind of relationship, to be able to give the ISA team that feedback, because that's super key. And 100%. I think it helps with morale. I think it helps with retention. I think it helps with outcomes, performance as well. When people are invested, in the team, they know the names, right? They know the people, and I think that's a really, really good environment that you guys are building. So I love it. So Alysha, final question, because I know we have limited time. I want to make sure I get to this. If you were talking to someone, let's say, in a team, inside an organization, that wants to add more value to their agents, right? It's considering, building an ISA team, either digital or in person. What would you say to them? What would you recommend they do? You've been through this, over the last 4 or 5 months, with what you know now. What would you say to someone that's kind of on the fence on whether to build an ISA team or not?
Uh, in full honesty, I would say, why haven't you done this already? And here's why. Because when we look at the amount of hours invested, and I look at everything from a cost per hour. So as an agent, what does my cost per hour run? And as you scale and as you get busier, when I have all the time in the world, I can make the calls. But as I get a client and another client and busier, what's the first thing that drops? The prospecting. And then 6 months from now, we're like, oh my gosh, I have no business. And I said, no, stop. You need to invest now, because that is your business. And I think that that's the piece that most people don't see. They all think the business is the deal at the end. I see it as the lead at the beginning, because without that lead coming in and somebody to be there, a human who enjoys what they do, that will nurture that is where your business starts. And so I think that you can get by on your own for so long. And then when you're really serious about being the CEO of your own real estate business, which even as a solo agent, we are. So let's put on our business person's hat and say, if I'm going to scale a business, what do I need to do? I need some tech, but I also need some help. And I think an ISA is one of the first things that, whether you're a solo agent or growing as a team, that ISA will take off hours of your day doing something that most agents don't enjoy. So let the pro do it who likes just sitting on the call. They don't want to be in the field. They're like, no, give me a phone every day. Happy to sell here. You take it into the field. So I would say to anybody, look at where you want to go, look at your 3 to 5 year plan. And if there's any scalability or any parts that you don't enjoy, look at leveraging those out. And an ISA team is probably the first person outside of an admin, because you need your admin, and then your next hire should be your ISA, so that they can take and nurture that and serving you up just whoever wants to speak to you. And I think that way too, the agent feels elevated and the ISA team feels appreciated.
Yeah, 100%. When they feel they're contributing, when they feel that the fruits of their labor, are having an impact. It's that's probably one of the biggest complaints I see from a really high performing, hardworking ISAs, is that it's like like a black box. They're throwing these leads and appointments over the wall, and what happened? Who knows? Like they're not sure, and that eats at you at some point. Like that's like, you don't feel appreciated. You don't feel like you're part of something bigger. And I think the teams and the leaders that focus on that and recognize that, it might seem like a small detail, and it's not, right? It's not. I think everyone wants to have a job where they feel fulfilled. And
Yes.
if you don't think you're having any kind of an impact, you're a cog in a machine, fulfillment's not going to come. It's just that's not the right way. And I love you guys that even think about that and consider those things, because it's huge. I think it makes a big difference in every step of the process, right? The back end team, ISA team, the people out, the agents out in the field, like the whole thing. And I think it comes through. It comes through. So, Alysha, appreciate you. Thank you so much for making the time, kind of sharing the story and what you guys have been able to build. It's a massive, organization you guys have that you're servicing, and a huge amount of leads. Oh, I forgot to ask, how many leads do you have in your follow-up boss? That you've got such a large team calling. I love that fact.
Yeah. So currently we're sitting just over 155,000.
Wow.
And adding every day. Every day we add more.
I love it.
Yeah.
Massive opportunity there. Massive opportunity. And it totally makes sense that you've built this machine to work that set of leads. Massive amount. So I love it. Alysha, thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Gustavo. Have a fabulous day. Thanks for having me here today. I appreciate it.